Hey everyone, DFA here, welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited to be starting the series with you now. Something that I wanted to do for a very long time, a complete destroyers guide, a long series of videos illustrating how to play destroyers using what you should actually be grinding as your first destroyer line, the Japanese destroyer line, because yes, the ship that you see here, obviously it's not the Fubuki, it is the tier 10 Shimakaze, and it's one of the most ubiquitous line and ubiquitous ships in the game. It's almost impossible to not have at least one in the battle, and it's not uncommon to have 2 or 3 amongst the roster. So yeah, it's a super popular line and a super popular tier 10 for a number of reasons. But yeah, I think the Japanese line is actually perfect to be learning how to play destroyers correctly, because they teach you the fundamentals of destroyers gameplay. How to position yourself, how to best use your torpedoes, and how and when to break concealment. So really, if you master those 3 things, you will be doing great with almost every destroyer line, and that's why that line is a fantastic vehicle to be teaching you about it. So it is going to be an 8 video series, it's going to keep us busy for quite some time. The first one will actually be my original Destroyers guide, which I published 4 years ago. Can you believe it? It's been 4 years already with the channel. And it's going to be very good about teaching you the basic concepts of Destroyers gameplay. Then we will be using the Fubuki, this video, to talk about positioning, how and where you should position your destroyers for maximum effect. We will move on to the tier 7 Akatsuki to talk about how to aim, lead, and generally score hits with your torpedoes. And then we will have 2 videos for the tier 8 Kagero. The first one will be about how to fight other destroyers, and the second one will be about the role you can actually play as a scout for your team. Moving on to the tier 9 Yugumo, we will be talking about trick plays. This is going to be a super interesting one and a really funny gameplay, how to trick your opponents, because those ships are absolutely fantastic at that. And the other thing that those ships are really good at, it's concealment and laying ambushes, and we will be using the tier 10 Shimakaze for that. So yes, we could not win the previous battle 1 versus 6, come on, let's be real. But yeah, you saw what these ships can do, and so let's actually get the guide started with the Fubuki and positioning. So let's take a look at its stats, and then we will go back to the gameplay and we'll talk about positioning. Okay, let's make this quick. Fubuki, very basic destroyer to be honest, and very typical of the Japanese line. Engine accelerator, low hit points, very vulnerable ship. Actually pretty average concealment, that's a bit unusual for the line. The speed is also not that great at 35, but it's okay, it's average. And the maneuverability is not great. The guns are also, yeah, the DPM 15,000 also pretty average, but what makes it a really poor dogfighter, it's the turret traverse, only 10 degrees turning. Yeah, and dogfighting with that thing, it's not great. That's why you really have to use the turret rotation in your equipment setup across the whole line, because they roll like that. Where it gets interesting, and that's the only thing you really care about with destroyers, it's the torpedo department. 9 61 centimeters torpedoes, reload time only 54 seconds, and the damage of close to 4,000 per torpedo. So yeah, you do get almost the best burst damage at the tier 30, almost 36,000 damage, and then 40,000 DPM, that's number 1. Yeah, range 8.4 kilometer, also very good, although not super useful, you will see why in the gameplay. But yeah, essentially you can very easily torp ships without being detected. And finally the AA, you have none, get used to that. So positioning, how do you position these things? There are a number of principles that you actually want to respect. Number 1, you never YOLO with these things. You never ever YOLO. I like to show gameplay where I make mistakes, and this is typically a mistake there. I'm going quite alone in a cap, but I also do not really have an exit path. If you look at the decision I'm taking here, it's really not a good one. Because let's say that I find another DD in the cap, there is none, it's just cruisers on the enemy team. So my thinking was, you know, okay, I will be first in there no matter what happens. And turns out actually I was not. And I end up in a very bad situation, because I do not have an exit route. and I do not have anyone to support me. So obviously it's tier 6, I'm not going to die right away at tier 10, it would have been a different story. But yeah, so that's the first thing that you actually want to do with those ships. Is you really have to think about your speed and know where you can and realistically cannot go at the beginning of the battle, and do not overextend, because no one from my team was able to support me with that. So you also do not flank, and by flanking I mean going around the map to nuke the enemy CV. I see that all the time and it pisses me off like you have no idea. Those ships have a fairly good amount of concealment, and this is of course an ideal gameplay because we do not have any other DD on the enemy team. So you actually want to stay as close as you can to the action. You want to use all the elements that you have in the terrain to be launching those torpedoes as close as you can to your target. Obviously we are being detected, and I believe that there I'm fine with the Normandy, but I think it's the Agincourt that's actually detecting me, and I thought that the island would actually keep me hidden, but that is totally not the case. So you want to remain as close as you can to the action, really close to your concealment ring. And I would say the final and most complicated thing to get right there. I get detected again by that Agincourt. This is frustrating. It's really to position yourself parallel to the routes that the enemy ships are going to take. So you have to kind of second guess what they are going to do. For example, that Fuso, it's pretty clear it's actually not going to press, it's not going to push. So I'm not going to shoot torpedoes there, but there are other battleships which are actually not really aware of my presence. And that, yeah, you know, the cruiser there, yeah, it's not going there, but the Agincourt, that could, yeah, that's a good target. Now it seems that they're actually considering pushing. So this is where the enemy movements become a lot more predictable, and this is actually where and how you have to shoot your torpedoes, because at that range, absolutely no chance for them to be dodging them. So the Agincourt is going to take a few of them, and the Fuso will kindly be eating the rest. So there you go. And now we disengage. Now we absolutely run away from the situation. We are useless for 40 seconds while our torpedoes are actually reloading. And so we have to reset our concealment and get out of a tricky situation. Now if you look at the minimap, you saw that there were actually two enemy ships pushing down. I'm not super interested in them at the moment because they're not really doing anything there. They're not threatening a cap. I'm going to ignore them. This is not where I'm going to position myself. I'm much more interested in the movements of that Agincourt. There you go. I'll take that. I am much more interested in the movement of that Agincourt because the game, it's not going that great for us. Yeah, we are still leading with the base, but yeah, if that Agincourt manages to cap it, we're not going to be great. So it doesn't seem to be slowing down. I'm just sending one torpedo there, just in case my enemy team is not able to finish it. And there I'm left in a, yeah, there you go, very good job from a team. And now we are in a very interesting situation because we do have one cruiser and two battleships there, and yet they actually do not have too many options. That Normandy, he has to get into the cap to actually change the outcome of the battle, because now we are actually leading and it's a 3 versus 3. So that is where its movement become a lot more predictable. Again, these twos, they could actually be turning in my direction, and that's what the cruiser is actually doing. So this is not the ones I want to engage. This is not how I want to position myself. I want to position myself parallel to the route that Normandy is going to take. And again, you see me here making a small mistake. I get a little bit too close and I really get detected. But you see me playing, always being really borderline concealed and really trying to stay as close as I can to the action, because there you go, bye-bye. That's how you scout for your team, by the way. That's how you make sure that they always know what's happening. So really, no YOLO at the beginning of the battle. Really be careful with that. Do not do what I made at the beginning of the battle. And if you decide to get very aggressive, because you have to get in caps, that is your job, then make sure that you are not going there on your own, at least until you know what's in front. Then you really try to stay as close as you can to the action, really like just what I'm doing here, really up just outside of concealment, 6 kilometers away from target, because that is how your torpedoes are going to deal the most damage or be the most accurate. And finally, always try to travel in parallel to the enemy ships. Guess where they are going and try to just stay there. So there you go, putting 6 torpedoes on that poor Gokadze. Surely he's going down. And What a stupid fucking game. Okay, I could have kept this one for my yearly fails video, because yeah, that could actually have gotten me killed there. So yeah, it's really an annoying situation. Luckily the second salvo we fired at the battleship behind managed to hit it, but yeah. What can you do, right? So there you go. Let's. I think you get the idea. I'm going to use that island again to go back to concealment and just break down the engagement. That's why you always try to not stay too far away from landscape elements. So yeah, I hope you learned a couple of interesting things there. Let's talk a bit about the Fubuki. And is it fun? Actually, yeah, it's actually pretty fun to play. I cannot say that I did not have fun in that battle. Beginner friendly, pretty decent as well. Just don't get into a gunfight straight away and you will be fine. Don't do anything stupid, you will be fine. A general characteristic of the line, it's an absolutely free-to-play friendly line. If you're not going to invest anything into the game, I recommend that you grind that line. I've actually done it entirely free-to-play. Only the Shimakaze has the historical camo. All the other ships that you will see will actually be with camos that you can get for free, and essentially using one of the epic commanders that you also get somewhere in the time. I think it's the one that gives better torpedo concealment, and actually you don't need a high level commander to do well with these things. You don't need historical camo, the torpedoes are there, and just use them and you will be fine. Overall rating 3.5 stars. So next week we will talk about how to use and lead torpedoes, and we will be using one of the best DDs in the game for that. So stay tuned, bye bye.